Hello guys, today in this video I would like to show you how to export your 3D object from the Sweet Home 3D application to Google Earth. So in front of mine I have my project opened. I have both the two-dimensional plan as well as three-dimensional on-look on my object. It looks like you can see. And my first step will be exporting this object to the OBJ format. After this export, I can go to the Google Sketchup where I can import this project. However, you have to make sure that you've got already plugins installed. These are two plugins which you have to install before you import your OBJ file to Google SketchUp because SketchUp doesn't recognize the OBJ extension without these plugins. So I'm redirecting you to the separate YouTube video where this process has been explained. Now I'm assuming that you got these two plugins installed, so we can easily import our saved file. It will be OBJ file format. But the most important thing here is that you have to set your uh, proper units before you import your file. Otherwise, it's going to be enlarged. So as a default, it will come as model units, but you have to select centimeters and make sure that this option is also ticked because it means that in your Cartesian system, your object will be set properly. If everything is alright, just go accept and import your file. Now we can see our object in the Google SketchUp. It does look nice, so look it we can take a look on it from various directions. And our second step should be remove removing this pegman which is here. You can just select it and use both eraser tool or just hit the delete button. Our object has some orientation and we have to figure out the directions shown in Google SketchUp. As far as I am concerned, the green line shows north directions and the red line already shows east direction. So now we have to look how our building stands against the local terrain circumstances and also other buildings. Looking at the real situation, I can tell you that this building is located roughly where the cursor is pointed right now. So it means that it definitely requires some rotation in SketchUp. But before I do this, I want to see in SketchUp how my building is already oriented. So assuming that as, as it has been told, the green line shows the north direction, the garage and garage door are headed south. So going back to my map, it could be somewhere down to the Google, right? So it must be rotated at least 90 degrees in order to rotate my garage towards west. But it's not everything. We have to count additional angle because this road is oriented pretty much from southwest to northeast. Okay, so this is a nice tool in Windows 10 which we can use, and this is the snip and sketch tool. By clicking at once Window, Shift, and S button, we can run this application. And as you can see, you can choose a few ways of snipping your screen. Let me select the very first one, which is the box, and select our whole map. After our screenshot is done, we are getting some tools here, which has been also explained in other YouTube video. But the most important one which we will use is the protractor embedded inside the ruler. So the protractor includes some angle, some very scant angle measurement. So as I said previously, the garage is going to be headed eventually northwest, but now it's headed south. So it requires at least 90 degrees rotation towards this direction and additional degrees, which I'm going to calculate it right now. So if we rotate our house by 90 degrees, the garage instead of here should be here, and we need additional angle angles to make it align to this road. So in this event, if I put the protractor roughly at this road, I can add additional angles. It will be counting from 0, it will be 15, 30, and 45. So it means that I have to add another 45 degrees. So finally, my rotation value will hit 135 degrees. So this is the final value on which I have to rotate this house, right? So another YouTube video shows how to make the rotation correctly in Google Sketchup. So I'm redirecting you to that video, and if you will get to know how to make the rotation in SketchUp correctly, please back to me and see how I'm doing it. So I assume that you watched video I told you, and now you know how to rotate the object in Google SketchUp. Let me show you quickly how I will rotate this house. So maybe it's not the best from this angle of view. We can move our object a bit and then start to rotate it properly. Please look at your angle box, which is roughly here, and I will stop when it reach exactly 135 degrees. 135. There you go. Okay. As you can see, our rotation value is exactly 135 degrees. So let's go to another step. We have to bring our object back to the initial location, which falls roughly where all these lines cross. We can do it on two ways. We can move our object like this, but we can also use another feature, which is sticking the origin point to our object already. The second way seems to be much more convenient than dragging our object to the axis crossing. We can go to Tools and select Axis. Then, as you can see, with next to our cursor, we can see the proposal of our axis crossing. So we can optionally place it here, and in this event, our object sticks to axis, which is great. Moreover, as you can see, object is rotated properly, so it seems like we are on the right track to putting it to the Google Earth. But before we do it so, please do remember that the geolocation of our object is required. I have no commercial SketchUp program, therefore I can use it just for 30 days, and I can't really set this geolocation automatically, but I'm still able to set it manually. So when I click at model info, I have a front of mine the geolocation, and I have no desire to log in. I just want to set it manually. So by setting location manually, I've got another pop-up window to fill up, and in this event I have to change this stuff which is already here. But I can't do it without decent calculations which can be gained from Google Maps. So we can get this location by doing the right click roughly in the place where we are going to have our object set up. The place otherworldly, this is the place of all our axes crossing in Google Sketchup. So make sure that this place is selected correctly, and make sure that you clicked roughly where you wanted, where you was meant to click. So in my case this is here. So if I do the right click exactly where my cursor is located, then I'm getting the coordinates from Google Maps. By left clicking, I'm copying them to clipboard. In this case, the easiest way to get them, pasting them somewhere. You can use it notepad for it, and you are getting accordingly latitude and longitude. So finally you can provide them in your setup, which will eventually round them to 6 decimal places. Okay, please also remember to change the directions here, and optionally you can also type your proper location but I'm convinced it's not required for this purpose. If you click OK, then your model has been geolocated manually, which you can see in your bottom left corner. So it seems like everything is alright. And finally, we can save our object, export our object as the 3D model, which allows us to save this file as the KMZ file. Yeah, so please let me do it. You can still click some options here, but they are not as important as we are importing our file. If I press export, the file is already exporting from Google Sketchup. Then I can go to my folder and see the file is been already exported. So by double clicking it, I can open it in Google Earth roughly in the location defined in the Google SketchUp, which includes also the angle of rotation. So we can easily check how our job has been done. Okay, so this is our building exactly in Google Earth. As you can see, it's located at the correct side of the road, which is fantastic. But it looks like it's slightly further than we expect it. It's driven by Google Earth Cartesian system, which means that the place which we picked up roughly from Google Maps, it's in the middle of this Cartesian system. Therefore, this side of the building represents the x-axis, and that side of the building represents y-axis. So everything goes like outside from this initial point where we clicked in. So if we want to have this building a bit closer to this road, we have to back to our SketchUp application and move our object slightly towards this direction. If you see the distance in feet and inches, you can go to Window, Model Info, and change units from architectural to decimal, where you can select both centimeters or meters. Now you'll have this value in centimeters. Make sure that your move is along the ground, not upside down. And as you can see, we can move our object preferably 10 meters ahead and export it again as a 3D model and see what happens. Looks like our operation has been successful. The house is closer to the road. So this is how, in general, manual geolocation works in Google Sketchup, by the way. But this is the most convenient way on which we can import our Sweet Home 3D object to Google Earth. So I hope that you have learned something from this video. Thank you for your attention.